Let's take a look and see how dirty she really is. Oh God, it's so dusty. So dusty makes me want to say husty musty. Boy, I hope it's not rusty. And it wasn't. Welcome to another voiceover, everyone. Most of this video is going to be voiceover, so let's get real comfortable with each other. Let's undo that belt buckle a bit. Let the gut hang out, you know? Make some throw up noises, pour some water on your shirt. Anyway, this is me more or less pointing out all the dust on this machine. This machine is extremely dusty. I have not done a proper cleaning of it in years. And the reason for that is, for one, I was just afraid of breaking something. This is a computer that I rely on for a number of things, income, one of them, and I just didn't want to break it. I've broken a few projects that I've worked on in the past. Granted, they were classic machines, but it's important to me that I be able to have access to something that does function. So I did one video on this channel where I did kind of a lazy cleanup of it, but this is going to be a thorough one. I'm actually really proud of how this turned out. I pulled this computer apart entirely, and that's what we're about to get started on. So here I've removed a few of the panels. We're going to take the bottom off, and I'm just kind of stacking them over in the corner because later we're going to pull the mesh grills out and wash them in the bathtub. This is my 1070, not a bad GPU. It's not letting me hardware render right now, which is kind of a pain. Here we are taking the control board for some of these LED lights that I have in here and just disconnecting it and getting everything out of the way so that we can get at this motherboard. And I can call this a motherboard because this is a PC, am I right, folks? So here we are, just unplugging stuff so that we can get the board out. Next up is this fan, which has the wires horribly zip-tied to the grill behind it, or should I say above it. Oh, look at all that dust in the air. So here we go, we're gonna break these zip ties off, never to return them. And then just unplug the splitter and get that fan out of the way. Pretty dusty. So we got a 120 up above that, and that can come out there too. The fan we just removed is an 80 mil. So this 120 mil can come out, same deal, super dusty. Then we can unplug the CPU power and the cooler. So here's the plug for all the front panel options. I wrapped this with electrical tape so that they wouldn't move out of the way, because you know how each pin relates to a certain thing. I just didn't want to have to look up the motherboard chart again. So 3 screws are all that's holding us down, as I was surprised to find out. And the board slips out nice and easy, like a glove, as James Carrey might say, or had said, in Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. So we're just getting fussy with things. This is one of the solid state drives that I have. It's a 500 gig Samsung Evo 850. I also have a 1 terabyte Samsung Evo 860. Black. And here comes the 1 terabyte. We're gonna pull that out. And actually, you know what? At the end of this build, we will have added an additional hard drive for a total of 4. It's the 860, 1 terabyte. Oh, so nice. So wonderful. Treats me like the man I always knew I was. And then here's my 8 terabyte spinning disk, which appeared on screen for less than a second. So now we're gonna unscrew the power supply so we can start unbraiding some of the cords and then pull that thing out of there because it also needs a cleaning. Everything in this case needs a cleaning. I mean, like I said, this thing has not been cleaned properly ever. I did some, anti-static brush dust vacuum work on it maybe 2 years ago, but this thing was built probably in 2017. So we're looking at 5 years worth of dust buildup. Anywho, with dust floating in the air like a blizzard in beautiful cold Canada, finally we have the power supply out. We can set that aside, breathe in some more of that dust, and start trying to pull out these LED light strips, which, they get the job done, and they're not fancy or anything like that. Let's not pretend that there's something they aren't. Front fans can come out now. These are the definition of dust. I mean, they've got such a thick layer on there, it looks like human hair. Silky human hair. Well, actually, maybe it looks more like cat fur. So a couple screws, and we're pulling off the little board on the front that has a couple USB ports, sound, and a microphone jack, as well as the power and reset buttons. So all those lovely cables can flow their way out of the case, because we're trying to get this thing down to bare metal. And we did! So here's the spread of everything, while I posed numerous different ways for a thumbnail. That may or may not even get used, because I think a side-by-side might look better. Anyway, by the time you're watching this, you'll know the answer of what thumbnail I used. So we're just going to clean the table off and get to the actual cleaning of this computer. So here's the dusty frame. 5 years worth of dirt on there. Look at that cat fur. Look at that human hair. Doesn't look anything like human hair. Alright. Alright, clean table, get all the dust off, because we are in a clean state of mind now. And look at that. I didn't show me cleaning this in the bathtub, because, you know, my bathtub is like the one you'd wake up in if Saw was real. But here it is, nice and clean. We're going to dry it off with a few hand towels, and then set it aside with a fan, because that is the best way to dry something off. Including a cat. You gotta have a cat nearby or else it won't dry properly. Alright, let's tear down these panels. Basically, we have to undo a couple screws and some metal tabs so that we can pull these metal mesh filters out, which capture, I wouldn't say all the dust, but most of it, obviously. And then these are going to get the same treatment that the case did. I'm going to take them over to my bathroom. I'm going to ask the guy who's handcuffed to it to move out of the way. And then I'm going to wash these panels. And while he's asking me where I hid the key, I'm going to keep asking him what his favorite Canadian computer collector video is. Saw, real life. Anyway, here we go. We got clean panels, so we're just going to start drying these things off. Now, you can dry them off with a cloth, but you got to remember, we're trying to rebuild this PC tonight. So these are all going to have to get hit with compressed air. So I'm just getting sort of most of the water off of these things. I'm not trying to do a perfect job here. As Bob Ross would say, just a representation of a drying is what we're looking for. But you know, it does a good job. You know, hand towels know how to dry. I mean, that's why I guess we still use them as a society. Anyway, that's really scraping the bottom of the barrel for conversation. All right, compressed air comes out. It's time to actually dry these things off. And then put those filters back inside. So here's a little montage action. Ooh, yeah. Cleaning out the buttons, the power and the reset. Water gets everywhere, don't you forget. And then we're just gonna do the same thing with the rest of these panels. So while we do that, why don't I entertain you with a passage from Ghostbusters 2, the novel. A fierce, ethereal whirlwind whipped above the heads of Louis, Spangler, Stantz, and Venkman as the slime jar began to spout glowing, sparkling wads of goop up into the air. A sizzling, undulating cloud of gooey vapor formed near the courthouse ceiling. Aghast, the judge sat behind his desk as the two figures, one rotund, the other emaciated, began to materialize high above. The judge recognized them immediately. "Oh my God," he whispered. "The Scolari brothers!" All right, so, you know, thank you very much, and you're welcome, viewers, and you're welcome, the Ghostbusters community at large. So, moving along, here we are vacuuming out and blowing out a power supply. Lots of dust to be found inside here, as with every component in this system. The other important thing here is that because these are porous cable covers, we've got to blow some dust out of them too. You know, no man left behind in this situation. Up next is the 80 mil fan that we had in there, and actually we're going to throw a second one into this PC. I have an identical 80 mil fan that I've been waiting to put in there. I just didn't have enough splitters to have all of them running at the same time. Unfortunately, my motherboard only has 2 spots, count them up, 2 spots to plug in system fans. So, running 2 splitters, it means I can only run 4, and I got 5. Anyway, you can see a difference in cleanliness there as we move on to fan number 2. Same kind of idea here as before, where we are just going to kind of rinse and repeat everything that we're doing here. So, blowing more dust vacuuming more dust. All right, so I'm just going to clean the table off here because we're going to start working on the motherboard. And it's important to have a nice clean surface when you're working on the motherboard, just so you don't pick up any sort of grossness that might bridge some solder joints or solder points or solder joints, as an Irish person might say. So with a quick dusting with compressed air and the vacuum to kind of soak it all up, I went ahead and fought with my CPU cooler for much longer than I showed on video here. Anyway, wrestle the thing off, get some 99% ISO onto the die, clean off all that old thermal paste. We'll do the same thing to the cooler. Just sort of getting rid of the old stuff, making room for the new. This is one of the most satisfying parts in my opinion. You can see the results of your work instantly. All right, we are almost there, and you'll see like the original pattern of the die as soon as all of it's gone. For a split second, there it is. Look at that. Woo! Okay, putting the thermal paste on. I know that everyone likes to say this is controversial. I have yet to have anyone give me a hard time, but then again, I'm also small potatoes. I'm a spreader though. I like to spread it out, nice even coat, make sure everything is covered. Then we're gonna put the cooler on sideways. I ended up removing this and straightening it out afterward. I know that that's probably not best practice after putting the thermal paste on, but it's just better for cable management and my own brain. Anyway, here we are drying off our drive caddies. Blowing a little compressed air in them too. Just gotta make sure everything is absolutely dry because we are gonna boot this computer up tonight. I can feel it! Anyway, my favorite part, the reassembly now begins. With everything nice and clean and feeling new, we're starting to piece everything back together. So on goes our front plate board with our power buttons. And we're just gonna thread those through to the front so that we can plug them into the motherboard when the board is in there. And then actually, once they're plugged in, we're gonna pull them back through so they can hide behind the wall. Power supply goes in, 4 screws hold it in place. And she's ready to roll. Starting to put the front fans in. These are our induction fans. So these suck in nice cold air out of the room, ideally, into the case so that it can blow past the CPU cooler and exit out the back where the two 80mm exhaust fans live. This 120 on the top I use also as an induction fan, although it can also be used in an exhaust situation. I guess it more or less depends on what you're trying to do. Here we have the different drives that are going in. So we got the 500 gig, the 1 terabyte, and then another terabyte spinning disk. Or sorry, I guess those are 500 and terabyte solid state, and then a spinning disk, and then the 8 terabyte spinning disk. Every drive has a home. Time to take your drives home. Close the door. All right, motherboard goes back in. Got to make sure all the I/O lines up. And then we can start moving cables out of the way so that we can move them in the way. You know what I'm saying? All right, so now I'm going to start plugging in SATA cables. These are for the drives that we just put into the back. Now, I put the 2 on the bottom initially, these 2 red ones, but it turned out that they would only fit with the second cables that I had if I placed them on top. So I just had to do a quick little rearrangement. We managed to fit 4 drive cables in instead of the 2 that the case originally had. Okay, and this is system fan 2, so a splitter goes in and then into the back so that we can hide the cables as best as possible, but that is going to be connecting our 2 front case fans. Down here we're plugging in some of the options on the front of the case. These are the ones that I wrapped with electrical tape so that I wouldn't have to look up the board chart again. So I just snip the end of the tape and sort of peel it back there. So once more, we've got so many things to plug in. I'm going to go ahead and read another passage from, you guessed it, Ghostbusters 2. It's not that thing you do with your nostrils, is it? Venkman said. Stance scurried off to the refrigerator. He opened up the freezer and, pushing aside an avalanche of TV dinners and frozen pizza, pulled out a specimen of slime housed in a Tupperware container. Stance trotted over to a barely conscious Venkman. We've been studying the stuff that we took from the subway tunnel. Anyway, here we go, into the back of the case. We are using that splitter we just moved to the back to plug in those fans. We're just going to move them out of the way. Then I'm going to start organizing the cables coming out of the back of the power supply. Now, Some of these have to go directly into the board, while the others have to plug directly into the drives. So here we're just moving in some of the cables that plug directly into the board. Now this is a bit of a process because you want to make sure that you're not putting too much cable on the other side. You want to keep a look that's clean and efficient. However, it is important stuff. I mean, this is not an option. So I like to think that I'm lucky with the case that I have, where I have multiple grommets that I can feed cables through, which allow me the freedom to bring them through the top or the side or whatever it may be. Not every case is as easily accessible. All right, so we're just plugging in SATA cables first, and then power supply power into each of these drives, which will hold all of our precious data. That's right, the files are in the computer. And here's the surprise, folks. We're putting a new GPU in this machine. It's an RTX 3050. Not exactly top of the line, but that's okay with me, you know? Boy, sticky stuff sure feels good when you peel it off of something smooth. Am I right, folks? Any Julio, let's get back to work here. We've got fans to move out of the way so that we can fit the new 80mm fan into its home. If you'll remember before, when we took the case apart, there was nothing in that top slot, but now we have two 80mm exhaust fans at the back of the case. The new GPU goes in. And folks, we are so close to the end of this rebuild that I can taste it. I can taste it in my mouth. It tastes like dust and new plastic and old plastic, a young priest and an old priest. Anyway, so we got those two fans plugged into the splitter and into the system fan slot on the board. We're going to tuck that 120mm fan cable into the back of the case and slide the fan itself back over as far as we can get it without disturbing the new 80mm fan. My chair is going to creak like absolute crazy as I tuck some cables into the corner there to hide them. Not the best wire tuck job, but hey, what do I care? I just want to have a clean, functional daily driver. Now the cable that's plugged into the GPU, I ended up moving to the second connector there, just so we had a bit more clearance for the side panel. Front goes on, and guess what? It's time for a test. Let's make sure I didn't ruin it. Well, let's find out if I broke my computer or not. Time for the... Oh wait, how did this come out? What the heck? Inaugural boot, countdown, 3, 2, 1... We've got spinning fans. We got an easy debug LED. I don't know what that means. Okay, turned off. That's good. You know, I'm looking at this video card. I don't know how I'm going to put the side case on this thing. Voila! Okay, we are on the home stretch. We just really got to get the panels back on. There might be a couple things to, oh, you know, we got to put the strip lighting back in. The LEDs. Well, in the meantime, we'll put the bottom back on. We've got one of the side panels on. Now, with this LED strip lighting, we have a little controller. That's going to place first, and then we can run it through some of the little clips that I have stuck on throughout the side of the case so that I wasn't just sort of loosely draping it on everything. Now, after the fact, once I finished this video and I brought the PC back into its place, I was having trouble getting picture with that little board plugged in. So when I unplugged it, and the GPU came right back to life. So who knows what was going on there? Might have been a short or something, might have been a shouty. Anyway, here's the finished product. We've got clean on the left, dirty on the right. And then we're gonna do kind of like a funky TV thing here. Ooh, there's dirty. And then we'll go right back to clean. Look at that. It can breathe again. There aren't years of cat hair clogging the vents there. It's kind of sad saying goodbye to some of Winslow's cat hair. It's been a while since he passed away. That was probably some of the last cat hair of his in the apartment.
Anyway, there's a shot of the interior. You can see just how bad it used to be and just how clean it is now. You know what? This is one of the most satisfying things you can do. If you have the time, pull your daily driver apart, clean it out, give it the royal treatment. Why not? Anyway, here's a shot of the fans. These were truly the worst on the whole thing.
Alright, what a long and strange journey it feels like it has been, but it's only been one evening. Boy, I said bean quite a bit there. Like Mr. Bean, or I have been. You being the judge. Anyway, thank you so much for hanging out while we went ahead and did a deep dive clean on this daily driver. I have never actually taken the thing apart and washed the case in the bathtub, and then each part individually, put it all back together again on a daily driver at least. I mean, we do that here all the time with old computers. So this was really exciting for me, a little bit nerve-wracking because I didn't want to break it. Shout out to the 3050 that we put inside there. Not exactly the world's greatest video card, but you know what? It was for sale at the time that I went in to go pick up a portable hard drive for a Plex server, and I was like, you know what? I need a graphics card because I can't render video in hardware mode for some reason. Anyway, this will allow me to do that. My 1070 will go for sale on the used market and hopefully recoup some of that cost. You know, the joke's really on me because as soon as I bought this, prices started going down. So this was an affordable card when things were at the tail end of crazy. So,
my life.
Anyway, thanks for tuning in to another Canadian Computer Collector. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this content. If you didn't and you made it all the way to the end, what are you doing here? We saved another machine from CompuLord and his horrible dust magnets. This machine will ride on into the sunset for millennia to come, I'm sure. Thank you so much to my Patreons, and if you aren't into Patreon, you want to donate to the channel, check out Buy Me a Coffee. The links to all of that are in the description. Oh, lastly, if you enjoyed this content, please tell other people about it. I really need to get our subscriber count up to 1,000 so that we can actually monetize this channel and have some more fun than we are already having. Not that we're not already doing that. Anyway, that's it. If I had anything else to say, I probably would. I'm just kind of treading water at this point. So shout out to Ethan Palomero, Trina Conrad, Dave's Vintage Apple Tech, Mac84 TV, Ron Resnick, and I feel like we're missing someone else. Garth Beagle, my man Garth. I'm gonna go ahead and get my computer set up and run some driver installs for this 3050, because right now we are running in like 800 by 600, as you saw in the test mode. So without further ado, enjoy the rest of your life. And don't die, for I am the Canadian Computer Collector. Goodbye. Oh, I should have shaved.